How do you know what type of social media content you should do more or less of? Well, you can pull all of your data from your own accounts, from what people are searching for, from cross platform social media data. We've done the pull the Twitter data with the actual posts and the likes and all the engagements around that from Appify. Check out our video from that where you can scrape the recent tweets from anyone or what people are searching for and download that as well and graph it. But you can also look at cross-platform data from Rival IQ and download a CSV of the top landscape post and do the same thing. So we're just looking for what kind of data has the actual full text of a post, a tweet, whatever that is, and then we can do a few really cool things with that to see what we should do more or less of. And the first thing really is thinking about what types of content is that. So I have a list of categories that I often see in social media, and look at what you post yourselves in your own accounts to see what types of categories they fall into. Like what kind of buckets? Like, are they products in action? Are they promotion kind of advertisements? Are they trailers for a movie or a video game? Are they competitions, events, announcements? Are they like kind of gratitude posts? Those sort of like wisdom self-growth ones you would see on like a Lululemon page? Are they like polls, questions? There's so many things it could be, but choose like 6 to 8 that you normally see, maybe a little bit more than that, depending on what type of content you're trying to discover works well. So make sure you do this really well, because if you don't have good categories, you won't get good insights. So long-winded there, but we want to pop into our actual data and find where that full text is, and we can create 6 different columns, and then you will be good. So we've got those 6 columns there, and what we're going to do, actually, I have it set up all right here as well with these 6 options, and we can drop those right here. And what we're going to do is use GPT for Sheets, which is awesome. You can pull ChatGPT's power right into Google Sheets when you set up your extension for Chrome and put in the API key that you're working with. But what it lets us do is have instructions in one column and then a different function. And they have a few different ones in the one where we can create our own data about the data we have. So like what category something is, what sentiment it is, all sorts of cool stuff. So what we can do in here, and you could do this differently in the spreadsheet and just have one cell somewhere else and pull it in there. I'm just putting it right next to it to make it like super clear that's where it's coming from. So here's our category list of what they might be tweeting about. Here are instructions for sentiment. So, you know, how do we classify it as far as positive, negative, or neutral? So it's going to do its best to figure that out. It used to be kind of hard to figure out sarcasm, but ChatGPT is getting a little better at stuff like that. And then also, I want, besides a label of whether it's positive, negative, or neutral, I also want a number, because numbers can make it graph in a little bit of a fun way, and we can actually combine 2 of those to make it easier for the viewer to really just pick up what type of posts are doing well when we do that. Go into the category, which is what we want to create, and you'll see here that there's a function called GPT classify. So we're going to do that. We're going to go equals GPT underscore classify, and we're going to do the text, comma, the list. And it might take a little while to load. It might set a little error thing there, but it looks like it did work. That is a wisdom. My name is Tim. I was born in 89. I guess that's wisdom. I don't know. I kind of question that a little bit, but hey, what we can do is take those 2 and you can drag it down. I like to get minimum 25 rows of data, but you know, hopefully, you know, 50, 100. In an ideal world, 250. It does seem to struggle once you get up there past 100, 150 in this thing. You'll see it loading for a little bit, and you might have to come back to it and give it another go, or drag and drop it again. But that's basically the idea. While that's going, we're going to do the same thing, but we don't have to use classify. You can just use the regular GPT function. Click that one, comma, the full text. See if we can get a sentiment label there as well. So that one's neutral. We want to get the instructions, and then we want that. All right, so we can also take those, highlight those, and drag them down all the way to the rows that you want complete for your analysis. Once you have all that, these are still in this formula form. So you want to, highlight all of the rows that you're going to use, and then you can go to a new sheet, then paste. You want to go to paste, special, values only. And that way you just have the actual text. It's not formulas anymore. It's not running against GPT sheets. And what you can do here is you can copy to a new spreadsheet, and then that spreadsheet you can save as a CSV or Excel file and bring into Tableau, and you are good to go. So now that we've got this data, we can pop into Tableau and make some cool graphs. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do first. We've got engagement per post, which I'll show you how to do. We've got category posts and the quantity you're posting in those categories, as well as what is the engagement in there. So that's two sides of the story. That's why we want a metric that is more powerful with a ratio. That way you can tell if it took you 100 posts to make that amount of engagement or just one. So super important to have both sides of that story. You can put them side by side in a dashboard, and you can also look at what other people are saying here, and what kind of sentiment and what kind of engagement that drives as well. So a lot of fun things you can do there. So I want to make sure that timestamp there is the icon for a calendar, and it probably isn't. I don't think it usually picks up on that. So make sure that is set to date time, and then you are good to go. So you can bring that up here into the date area. You can right click on that, make it exact date, and it should automatically be continuous. So we're good to go there. And we have tweet ID. We can drop into detail if we want to look at individual tweets. What I have here is engagement per post. So you can always, right click, create calculated field. We already have it, so I'll just show you what it is. But it's the same kind of idea that you would whenever you create any calculation. One thing to watch out for is the aggregate functions, as Tableau calls it. So I'm going to do this from scratch. But what we want actually is the likes plus quotes plus replies plus retweets. And I'll show you how this goes when you put some parentheses around it, and you want to divide that by the number of posts. So Tableau always creates that count here, so it's going to name it the file name, and so that's a count of all those rows, so you can see how many engagements per post. So that powerful ratio, but this says it has an error, so you cannot mix aggregate and non-aggregate functions. So in human, it wants something that is sum of all of those, so do another parentheses around all of those, so you have sum and a count. So sum divided by a count, and now you're good to go. And so now you have that engagement per post, and now we can map that over time. Since this one's all the searches, it pulled, there's a lot of people talking about Taylor Swift on one day. So it's got a couple of randos in there. So we're going to bring timestamp into the filter. See, we can do it by a week, since the others look like it's a completely different week. And I'm going to choose that last week there. And now we can see that a little better. You could obviously put it in a filled area chart, make it a little bit different, show mark labels, maybe just the min max. You can make the font match the mark color, make it bold, make it a little bigger. There we go. So now we can call that engagements by search term Taylor Swift. So this isn't her tweets, it is any tweets that has her name in it. It's a lot of engagement. All right, so some of the other things we can do is look at our sentiment label. So I'm going to bring the regular one in there and show you what happened, because I already checked this data out a little bit. Let's right click and format on that, because this is pretty small. Boom, that's huge. Okay, but all right, we will be changing it anyway. So now we have all these labels, but what I wanted to point out is these went a little weird. I guess we need to adjust our prompt, but you can control click multiple things at a time like that, and click the little paper clip and put them together. It combines the name though, so you want to edit alias, or you can actually do it more permanently and edit group, and you can group these together. I'm going to put those in junk, and then group positive together, positive, and make sure you rename these as well. So we've got negative, neutral, and positive as the group. So click apply. So now instead of using that sentiment label, we can use the group, and I can right click on junk and click exclude or filter it out whenever we're using it. And now we can do different things. So now I've got the engagement post by those, and I can even do this over time. So you could do timestamp. Get into a line graph. That is a little bit hard to see, even though it's just the 3. Maybe we do a bar. Maybe it's like a stack bar. Can we do that? Let's do something different instead. Sentiment label group, I mean. And let's bring in the counts. So Control-Shift-B, Command-Shift-B, you could do this. Is kind of interesting. So now we actually have the count of how many tweets are positive, negative, or neutral. So you can make that match the mark color. You want to make it really easy for the user. You can also drop that on the label. So now you don't even need a legend, and you can hide this thing up here. It's better that it's closer to the graph anyway. And you could say Twitter search by count of sentiment. So that still sounds a little bit robotic. So like how many positive, negative, or neutral tweets were posted about Taylor Swift on X date. So try to think more like a human when you're doing this, because the automatic way, just thinking about the data, it gets kind of wonky. We definitely want to get that color changed to do something a little bit more fitting to the brand, and we could do stuff like that. So there you go. So lots of things to do. You can also do this sort of search with the numbers. So let's bring in that sentiment score. And if it's not a number and a decimal, remember it could be up here in the dimensions. You want to right click on that, change data type to a number decimal, and then if it's up here, you would right click and change it to measure. Right now it's already a measure, so it's going to change it to a dimension if I do that. But you can bring in that sentiment score. Now you've got the individual tweets, which you could use the URL, the ID, or the text, but the ID is probably the cleanest way to do that. And now we can bring in our timestamp, bring that up here, exact dates. We have that single day again, so you probably won't have to do this part because yours are probably all pretty recent, but if you have an area you want to focus on, that's the way to do it. We don't want a line chart here. I want those actual dots. That makes a lot more sense. What I can do too is, now that we have sentiment labels, we can drop those onto shapes, because that's just 3. We can exclude the junk ones, can make the size bigger. I like filled in shapes better because they're easier to see, so you can choose that there and assign the palette, apply. And you can also control click that and add it to color, make it super easy for the user. Drop the opacity, you can see where it overlaps a little bit. You can kind of find a balance on the size where you don't have too many overlaps, but you can still see them fairly well. You can actually add the username, since these are searches. If it was the brand name, you wouldn't have this, but you can drop that onto the label perhaps, and even make it match the mark color so they're kind of close together. You can see which is which. Clean up your axes. You can click nulls and filter those out. Give it a good title, so like tweets by sentiment score. Of course, you could duplicate this as well. Maybe you don't want that for the label. You want to maybe call out something that's like an important tweet. Up here, there's a positive one. Maybe you could annotate that there. So if you do that, it's got this junk here. I don't necessarily want to know this. I actually just want to know what the text is. So let's figure out that. Let's get the text up here, drop it onto detail, and now it's available to be dropped onto the tooltip. And it's also available if I right click and annotate. Now it actually already put it in there automatically for me, but if it wasn't, you could put that as well up there using insert, because it's here now that you added it in. So let's see if we can get that to work. Well, have fun making the graphs and check out what you could possibly tell as far as a data story now that you have other things that help you figure out what posts are effective, what posts are efficient, and what you want to do more or less of.